Okay.
Good.
Could you tell me your name?
My name is Carmen Pitchford. I am the owner of So Cute Embroidery Boutique in Plano.
Awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Myself, I am Filipino-American. Been here 40 some odd years. Married, 4 kids, 2 of whom still live at home.
Tell me about your past. What brought you here? You're clearly not from here.
No, we're originally from California. We moved to Texas about 12 years ago. In my previous life, I worked in an office. My husband and I actually met when we both worked at Sega Interactive, research and development. And we've moved on since then, obviously. He is still in networking, and I stayed home for the better part of 14 years to be with my kids. Then rather than entering the job market, a few years ago we decided to open the shop so that we can do something together. He and I both run the company together, and we're here every day with each other.
Okay, go ahead and tell me about the earlier start of your business.
It started off actually as a hobby. Like most hobbies start off, basically it was just something to keep me amused. My husband actually bought me my first machine to try to keep me from smoking. I used to do a lot of gardening so that I was outside and I could smoke. I never smoked inside the house, and he said that I needed a new hobby that kept me indoors more. So one year we were at the fair and he bought this embroidery machine for me, and so I started making things for friends and for family, and it just kind of evolved from there.
And what did it evolve to? What stuff did you start off with?
The very first item that I actually sold was a tooth fairy pillow. My youngest daughter at that time was in kindergarten. She had a classmate that walked into class proudly saying that they lost a tooth the night before. So I told her that I'd make her a tooth fairy pillow. And her mother looked at me like I had a horn sticking out of my forehead because she didn't know what a tooth fairy pillow was. So I made this little pillow for her. And then when I brought it to class, all the other moms said that they would really love one for their kids too. So I ended up making 23 of them. And one of the moms actually said, you know, this is actually good enough. I would probably pay money for this. I said, really? So just as an idea and just to throw it out there, I made, I think, a total of 40. I didn't buy any more material than I had scraps laying around my house. I think the only thing that I bought at that time was the trim to go around the tooth fairy pillows. And I got a little table at swap meet, that's what we call it in California. It's just a little weekend event, and I think I sold 3 for that one weekend. But it was enough that, you know, it brought up my confidence that I could make things that people wanted, and it kind of evolved from there. I think that was in the beginning of the summer. By Christmas that same year, the machine was pretty much running all day and all night. So we had enough that we actually purchased an additional machine, and we just kind of kept going from there. I think now we're at about 5 machines in total. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
So aside from expanding, how has your business changed?
It was always designed to just be at home, a home business that was just to provide an extra income. It was never supposed to be the primary source of income for us. But 3 years ago, my husband was unceremoniously retired by the company that we moved here for. And because, unfortunately, because of his age, marketability is a little bit low. So rather than him trying to re-enter the job market, we decided we'd just open the shop. Our normal focus as a company had always been for children's items. We sold tooth fairy pillows and blankets and bibs and such. By opening the shop, then we expanded our customer base to corporate apparel. So now we do logos on shirts and on jackets and on bags, things that some companies would probably use for marketing purposes and such. So,
have you run into any super hardships, anything that has affected, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this.
any setbacks maybe?
Yeah, setback.
We've, because I'd pretty much been in business for about 10 years prior, I thought that I'd pretty much gone through everything, and that was not the case. Since we've opened the shop, we've had some new encounters with issues that we hadn't had before. One being that larger amounts of orders normally. I'm used to dealing with onesie twosie items, but now when companies order larger amounts so we're having to deal with larger quantities, mass production, and that's something that's kind of new. I'm the only person that runs any of the machines here. My husband's kind enough to help me load and unload and set up when we do shows. We do trade days, both in McKinney and in Canton. But for the most part, he doesn't really do anything with production. So when, the more work there is, the less sleep I get. So that's probably part of the thing that I've had to learn to accommodate, is basically the amount of work that we're doing now versus what we were doing before. That, and it's, like I said, we used to do a lot of things for children. Now I'm having to deal with adults, and it's a whole different language altogether. With kids, I'm sorry to say, they're pretty much happy. I can put their name on anything, and as long as they can see their names, they're very happy, and they show enthusiasm. Adults are not so easily, they're not easily pleased, and I'm having to learn to be very specific. When they give me instructions, I have to be very literal. When I do things for children, I'm able to be more expressive artistic-wise. I can give it a little twist. With adults, no such thing. You have to be very specific. Have to be very specific to what they say. I cannot stray from that, or I can have problems, and I've come into that issue a couple of times already. So,
can you think of anything that brings you the most joy about this particular line of business?
It still allows me that creativity. Like I said, when I was working before in an office, that's basically what it was. It was office work. Not to take away from that, but I've always considered myself to be very crafty. I am not artistic in any way at all. I have no medium, but I am crafty. And when I was working before, I tended to make stuff and just give them away because I wanted to be making things all the time. This actually gives me that outlet where I can make things, but instead of giving it away, people actually pay me for it. So it's a little better for the family.
So for anyone that is interested in starting their own business, coming from your point of view, what advice would you give, just from your experience? Just from my experience, I would put great emphasis in the fact that this is something you want to do, truly. I've actually read a couple of cases where people have invested thousands upon thousands of dollars and a lot of their time going into a business that maybe they never even tried before. They didn't know what it would encompass. Have to make sure. I can honestly say that since we started the shop, I have had probably 2 days out of each month off. Every other Sunday is the only time I have off. But because I don't consider it work. I'm here, and yes, I'm pushing buttons on the machines and I'm doing things, but to me, it's not really work. So I don't mind it. If you don't enjoy what it is that you're going to do, it's going to be work for you every single day.
So you need to make sure that this is something you really want to do. You have to have the financial backing for it, whether you take out a business loan or if you have your own funds. You have to make sure, because of the ebbs and the flows in business, it's not the same every month. You have to make sure that you have, you know, enough kind of stashed away for just when it's ebbing and not flowing. So,
All right. Perfect.
right?
I think we're done, Mom.
Okay.